What's up, everybody? It's Dave Wallace from the Medal of Honor channel, bringing you another sideshow. Had a little bit of extra time. My Metalhead box is running a little bit late in the mail. It is a holiday weekend as I record this. But I actually had somebody ask me a question that I went to respond on social media as something that seemed like a fairly simple answer, and realized that it was a little bit more in depth, and thought, hey, you know what, this might be a good chance for me to make a little extra video and give you something else to think about. So what I'm going to be talking about is the different avenues that I discover new metal music, new stuff that I want to purchase on vinyl, stuff that I want to talk to you about, things that I want to review. And when I say new, you know, a lot of it is brand new stuff. How do I discover brand new bands? But also sometimes it can be new to me. Maybe it's a band that has been around for a long time and I just never really gave them a chance before. Maybe I heard something of theirs that I thought, oh, you know, I'd forgotten about it. Maybe I wrote it down a long time ago and spaced it off and meant to look into them. And so, I mean, you know, that's why all these different avenues, sometimes it'll be something that's older, but it's still new to me. And that's all that really matters, is you're finding stuff that you enjoy and that you love to listen to. It doesn't matter if it came out last week or 40 years ago. So I should give a little bit of a disclaimer to start, and that is that I'm old, so I'm kind of a little bit of a get off my lawn kind of person. I don't really always acclimate to some of the newest technologies. I mean, in general, you know, most of the searching that I do does happen online. You know, back in high school, I mean, everything I found out about what was new in music was either, you know, through a friend or, Metal Edge magazine, back when people read magazines. Or a lot of times it was judging a book by its cover. I would go into the record store and look at an album and go, that looks badass, you know, just the cover art alone. So it was a lot more hit or miss. You couldn't really, you know, check things out before you bought them. So, of course, you know, nowadays, you know, there are a lot of different ways that you can do that, and I do try to use them. But I mean, some of the ways that I don't really move forward that much, well, I write stuff down in a notepad here. I actually have in alphabetical order just band names that I have written in here. When I find something I want to further discover, I write it down. I have apps on my phone where I can actually just type it in there and hold countless information, but I don't know, maybe it's the old school in me, maybe it's the artist in me that just wants to hold a pen, but I still write stuff down on paper. So that's one of the areas where maybe I haven't moved forward so much, but whatever way works for you is fine. But there are several different avenues in which I find all the different stuff that I am really interested in. So let's kind of go over that. First of all, I should also say that aside from this notepad and internet, one of the main things that I use constantly is Spotify. I use Spotify if I'm looking at something online or that doesn't have a way for me to instantly listen to it. If I'm watching a show about it, I'm definitely gonna scroll through Spotify and check them out that way. Just make sure that I like it. You know, there's lots of things you can be interested in. God, the amount of music these days is insane. Trying to keep up with how many bands there are, because all the great bands that started out 40 years ago, the really good ones, they're still out and they're still putting out music, and yet there's always new ones and new subgenres, and it comes from all over the world. It gets really hard to keep up with everything that's going on in music, and definitely hard to remember stuff. So for me, I absolutely have to write it down. But being able to sneak a peek at through Spotify or whatever streaming service that you use. Now, I use the premium Spotify. I pay for it so that way I'm able to download it, albums, and be offline and still listen to it. But whatever works for you. Like I said, Spotify, that is a big one for me. I also would like to point out, before we get into these other different ways of finding music, a little secret for those who, if you're wanting to kind of check out a band in a quick manner, you're wanting to find out whether you like them or not, especially like, say you're going through a list of, just a ton of different bands you want to know. if you like them or not, and you don't really have all day to sit there and listen to full albums, you just want to kind of check them out, see if you want to even pursue it anymore, my suggestion would be going on to Spotify, finding the album, and always go with track 2. That's not always guaranteed to be the best, but typically that is where you're going to put either track 1 or track 2 is usually where you're going to put your single, or what you think is going to be your hit, or the song that you feel like it's going to really define your sound. One thing that I learned a long time ago is that when it comes to say like people from record companies and in general people wanting to check out your music in the music business, is you've got 15-20 seconds before they skip because they're tired of not hearing something that catches their attention. So typically right at the beginning of the album somewhere you're going to want to have your hardest hitting but yet still your hooks song. And metal bands in particular do a lot of cool intros, and something that has like that big long eerie acoustic intro, but then goes into your hit song. So you want to skip over that first track if you're in a hurry and you're trying to just like I said, if you're trying to get the gist of it. In general, try track 2, that way you get through stuff quickly and kind of figure out if you like that band or not. Okay, so anyway, the first avenue for discovering new music for me should be obvious. You're watching one right now, YouTube. YouTube, especially, watching the growing community of heavy metal on vinyl shows. It's actually a lot of fun for me, and you're watching one right now, and if you go to my channel, especially if you watch my full-length episodes, I do reviews of fairly new albums on the full episodes of Medal of Honor. But even like the Honored Metal specials, or the bin diving, or the 6 records, any of those kind of shows, even if it's not a brand new album, might be something that's old that you've forgotten about or that you've just never checked out before. And of course there's plenty of other great channels besides mine, but you do need to click the subscribe button down there, so that we always hear about what's going on with this show. And then do the same with the other great shows that are out there. You've heard me say his name many times, Matt Paradise. Check out his channel, Accusation Network. He's got a lot of great shows on there, and all of them, I take the notepad and I sit down and write down the bands that he's talking about so that I can remember to go check them out later, and I'm not interrupting the show as I'm watching it. You could do two things at the same time, if you really wanted to, or you could sit there and pause YouTube and check out on your phone, on your Spotify, check out the bands. But like I said, I write it down. Also, aside from the different reviews and shows that he does in there, he does every month he does an upcoming releases show where he talks about different albums that are going to be coming out, and even mostly about the ones that he's interested in, but he usually even has down at the bottom the little tinker tape going across that tells you other releases that are also coming out. So very handy to check that show out. So definitely check out Matt's show. There's other shows as well. I just discovered a guy named Liam who has a show called Death Doom Metalhead. And it's a very informative show. And actually, just the other night, he was doing a show about one particular label. I believe it was Hammerheart Records, and talking about just these albums that he'd bought from them, which sounded really interesting, and they were at a great price. Another good thing that you can find out about from watching these shows is where you can get an extra good deal, and of course variants on the vinyl, gatefolds, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, he was talking about these. That ended up sending me to a record label website, so we'll get back more on that in a minute. But again, these shows, just very helpful, especially these shows that are about vinyl for me as a vinyl collector. However, other metal shows in general can lead you in the same direction. Just because a guy is talking about CDs doesn't mean you can't possibly look for the same thing on vinyl if that's what you're into, or cassettes, or whatever it is that you're looking for. So aside from a lot of great shows about specifically metal on vinyl, there's just some really great metal shows on YouTube. Metal Roundtable is a decent one I've been watching. Really liking Black Metal Werewolf. He's got a lot of cool, fun shows to check out. And of course, Banger TV. I mean, we all know about Banger Films, all the great metal documentaries that they've done. And they have a channel on YouTube where they have just tons of really good debates and discussions about different subgenres of metal, and that's a great way to pick up some names that maybe you weren't familiar with or haven't heard in a while. So, you know, all these different YouTube shows are a great way for you to check out new bands or old bands, and hearing titles that you haven't remembered, and write them down in your notebook and then check them out. Of course, aside from YouTube, there's also record label websites. As I mentioned before, watching Liam's show, I was able to go into Hammerheart. Should I spend an hour and even get halfway through, you know, just checking out all the different bands in there and what seemed kind of interesting to me, and if I wanted to check it out further. And, you know, I think some of these websites, of course, they'll put, you know, little samples of music. If it doesn't, you know, that's another way of, you know, like I just keep the phone in one hand and look on the computer, look up the album, then Spotify in this hand, and, you know, kind of do the second song rule there. But yeah, anyway, these different websites, specifically from different record labels. And let's face it, you know, you've probably, if you got a certain style or maybe a subgenre that you really love, you've probably got several albums from one record label. So that would be a good start right there, is, you know, hey, you know, I've got 4 albums I just recently bought. They're all from Nuclear Blast Records. Well, that might be a good start then. Go to Nuclear Blast Records website. And the great thing about these label stores is they also do a lot of combo packages where you can get a t-shirt and an album together. So and sometimes an exclusive to there. So, you know, another great way of getting your album from those. Also, when it comes to being online, Bandcamp is a big one. Most bands nowadays are putting out a Bandcamp website. At least the, you know, metal bands definitely are. And another great rabbit hole that you can get lost on just by doing a search through the genre of metal, and again, spend tons of time there. Bandcamp has an app. You can get on there. I've done a bit of searching on there. I've ordered some stuff, haven't got yet. I'm still waiting on some things. Although most of the time, if you buy something on there, you also get the digital download that comes with it. And they have special days, like maybe where, you know, they just had a special day where all of the money went directly to the band. So they do some cool stuff like that. Sometimes you'll get on there and the band will only have the digital download on there. But if you scroll through the information, you'll find out that they actually do have albums or CDs, and maybe it's because the record label wants to sell it in a different location. At least you know it's out there anyway. So Bandcamp, definitely a good way to find out more about the bands that you like, and a good avenue for searching for new music also. Of course, I already mentioned how much I use Spotify. Well, Spotify is a great way to discover new bands. On their homepage, they usually have pre-made playlists, and especially, I mean, you know, these smartphones, they know everything you like already, right? So if you're listening to metal on there all the time, it already knows you like metal, and it's going to suggest all of these playlists that surround metal music in different kinds. There's, you know, a list that's just called heavy metal. There might be one called like dark and black. There might be one that's actually heavy metal workout. And there's one that's called new metal, as in brand new, not new metal. And let's wear Janko jeans, whatever. The good stuff, brand new metal. And that is a really cool playlist because it will not only play you stuff from albums that have just come out, but it also will play you singles that are being released from albums that are about to come out. So that's a really great playlist to check out. What I like to do with any of these playlists is I try to go to the gym to exercise 3 nights a week. And so what I will do is I will put this playlist on, and while I'm exercising, if I hear something that I really like, I pause and I take a screenshot on my phone. And that way when I go home later, I can check it out and just do a little bit more research on it that way. So Spotify, definitely a great way to check out more stuff. Another avenue for, of course, finding out more about new music, and just a great way to meet more people is, of course, Facebook. Facebook has so many different groups that you can easily become a part of. And I mean, I've joined tons of groups on there that are all about heavy metal. Even if it's, it might be heavy metal on vinyl, but it might just be metal music, might be solely thrash metal, different kind of subgenres, or it could just be, hey, we all listen to metal here. I don't know. But the great thing about those is not only do people regularly just post pictures of, hey, look what I got in the mail, that might bring something new to mind for you, but if you discover something that maybe say again a subgenre that you really like and want to find out more about that, it's a really great avenue to just post a question on there. Say, hey, what's your favorite melodic death metal band from Finland? I guarantee you're going to get 1 million people who are going to put their opinions on who's the best. And so check that out, because that's a really great way to get on Facebook groups and find out more and more about other albums that are out there that you didn't even know existed. Finally, as far as my different avenues for finding music, and again, you may have plenty more. My ways aren't always the most efficient, but anyway, satellite radio. I listen to liquid metal while I'm at work a lot of times, and new bands get played on there. It's a good way to hear something, and of course, usually I got to stop tattooing somebody and run over and look at the name on the radio so I can remember who it was. But if I'm not doing anything, then of course right away I'll go onto Spotify and snapshot it, or just if I got the notebook there, just write it down. So those are the basic avenues that I personally use for discovering new bands. Now, as far as buying, well, that's a little bit different story in some ways. First and foremost, I think when it comes to buying music, if you can, you should have a dealer. Somebody who's got a storefront that focuses on vinyl. Somebody you can get to know on a first name basis. My guy's name is Andrew. He's got a store called Sounds Good Music here in Port St. Lucie, Florida. He owns a record store that has to appeal to a lot of people in order to stay open. So, I mean, it's not a metal hangout by any means, but there's always something in there that I want, and anything that I'm looking for, if it's possible, he'll track it down and find it for me. This is a good way to support local business, and it helps the economy in your own area. But I know even though record stores are, becoming a big business again, they're still not everywhere. So, you may not have that option. But if you do, definitely always try to go to your dealer first. Of course, aside from that, the record label and the Bandcamp sites, those are definitely good avenues to buy directly from those places if you can. And again, you get some really cool package deals that way. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but a great way to get a lot of your music is definitely Amazon. When you want something the next day, especially when you got a show coming up and you got to get a goddamn review done on time, Amazon, send that shit to me. I want it here tomorrow. Amazon Prime, of course, is very beneficial in that way. And, a lot of times Amazon will also give you a free download onto Amazon Music, which you can then download on your computer. Most of the albums that I do reviews on, if they don't have a download card with them, I will typically find it on Amazon MP3 and I will download it onto my computer. I'll pay for it. Even though I've already bought the album, I'll still pay for the MP3, supporting bands in any way that I can, and that way I can put it onto my show. So again, another great way is, you can't deny Amazon. And then Discogs is, of course, one that anybody who's, really, if you're a music collector of any kind, even CDs and cassettes, you should have a Discogs site. Discogs is a great way of being able to catalog all your music and find out exactly, which variants of your album. You wouldn't believe how many different versions of some of these albums there are out there. It's insane, and it's a great way to catalog all your music. And also, it has a marketplace on there, so you can actually shop for your music or learn about music just by looking through Discogs. Now, I'm not sure if you can always play the music and listen to it on Discogs, but you can. Usually, you can find a really good price on albums through Discogs on their website. So a great way to scroll through and find stuff you're looking for, rare things, or sometimes just something you didn't even know was out there. Then, of course, Discogs is kind of similar to eBay in the sense that you can buy a lot of great used albums on eBay. Usually, if you know what you're looking for, it's a pretty easy way to go shopping for is on eBay, but sometimes you can just type in, death metal LPs and see what shows up on eBay as well. Bin diving is a great way to come up with some of these albums too. Flea markets and secondhand stores, even like Goodwill sometimes. You can get lucky. It's not that easy, but you can get lucky and go into a secondhand store and find something really cool in there. So always good to try a little bin diving if you're anywhere near a place that carries old records. Definitely check them out. And then finally, if you're okay with like I said, you want to check out new music, if you're okay with spending a little extra money and putting your fate in someone else's hands, I highly suggest Metalhead Box. It's 2 albums a month plus a t-shirt that I'm getting from them, and once again, it's a great way to get music that I didn't even know that I liked. Yeah, I might not always love it, but for the most part, if it's in that metal category, I find some pretty cool stuff that way, and usually get something sent to me that I had no idea I was going to like that much, and turns out I do. So if you're willing, shave a few bucks here and there and save up and do your Metalhead Box, it's totally worth it in my opinion. Anyway, so these are the avenues in which I usually go to find different music that I like, find new stuff, and then turn around and purchase it and share it with you. I would love to hear what your suggestions are as far as maybe better avenues. How do you find music that you love, and do you have a better way of purchasing it? Now, I'm all for physical format first of all. I really want to have an item in my hand, something to look at, and something to just kind of make a connection with, and also it gives a little bit more to the band. So if you have better avenues of that kind of stuff, I'd like to hear about it. Put it down in the comments, and otherwise, try these different methods out, see if you like them, and yeah, that's it for now. I'm going to go do a little online shopping myself, and then probably work on another episode of some sort here for you. So coming up in the next couple days should be a Metalhead Box review, and until then, keep your horns up, keep the needle down.